Hey guys, I wanted to go over this free response question with you that's been released by the College Board and try to get you as close as I can to what we're expecting for exam day. Now, keep in mind, College Board has put this out there as a sample, and they specifically warn people against taking this like as the way the exam is going to be. They've even said that there's some places where they might try to throw people off intentionally just so that it's fair for everyone nationwide on Friday when we sit down to write this thing. So I don't know if this is exactly what they intend for the exam, but it does give me some clarity on some parts that I had questions about. So I'm glad that we had the chance to kind of wrestle with it and write with it. I hope that you see that the skills are the same. They just might be in different places depending on where they show up in the prompt, okay? So reading this all the way through, it says the painting shown conveys aspects of cultural identity. The directions, we haven't had that before. That's kind of nice. Select another work of art that conveys aspects of cultural or national identity. You may select a work from the list below or any other relevant work from any geographic area or time period. Wow, that door is wide open, right? You can write about anything. But notice they say, please clearly communicate which work you will discuss in your comparison. I said that we really needed to fully identify before, and I tried to demonstrate the difference between completely identify, fully identify, and just select. We're just picking a work. It's okay as long as we know which specific work it is. Like the problems that I see would be like portraits if we chose to write about them, because there's so many in the image set. We don't know which one you're talking about until we've read what you're writing. And that's a problem. If you choose artworks that have like, similar titles like Madonna and Child or The Kiss, we have multiple images in the image set that have that title, and we got to know which one you're talking about before we can award any points at all. So just take that to heart as you're reading that. We'll come back and mark that in a second. Actually, we'll mark it right now. Okay, why wait? This is information that tells us what the theme is. Okay, so that might be helpful. There's no identify even here, so I like that they took that out. Select any other work. I don't think you really need to go too far off the list. And I know that, we're not familiar with these works yet because I haven't gotten those videos online for you to look at. But these are very strong pieces you've read about on Khan Academy, and I bet you could do a pretty good job even if I don't get that lecture done. I will select this. If you guys do go off list, we have to know, please clearly communicate which work you will discuss in your comparison. If you, for example, say, I don't know, the work by Zhu Bing, right? You want to talk about Book from the Sky, but you don't say Book from the Sky, and we're just talking about some artwork by an artist. We don't have a clear picture of what you're talking about. So if you go off list because you don't know these, please make sure we know what's going on there first, and do that at the front, right? Don't make us look for it at the end of the essay. Tell us right off the bat what you're going to do, and everything will be fine. Now I have Diego Rivera, Dream of a Sunday Afternoon in Alameda Park. Jacob Lawrence, The Migration of the Negro, panel number 4. I will be getting these videos done. Don't you worry. This is a reminder to Mr. J. All right, so let's do what we've always done. Circle verbs, right? I got a lot of them. Explain, 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 explain. If I go into the prompt, I find describe, describe, support. What the? All right, we're going to be okay. This is kind of like the pyramid, right? On our diagrams we've been doing, where you just have information you've got to answer a question with and then support from both works. So please don't freak out. You can read English. I think that will make sense to you once we get into this. All right. Now, one thing I'm noticing, describe didn't come first. Describe, it's still in there at the front part of the essay, but it's tucked in behind an explanation we have to do first. So it's still there. It's just it's not at the top of our page, right? So let's keep on moving. I like the word how here. Put on my glasses. I'm getting old. Here we go. How, that's better. How the object you chose and the object shown convey aspects of cultural or national identity, describe specific visual characteristics of both works to support your explanation. Okay, so reading on, explain one difference in how. Again, the object you chose and the object shown convey aspects of cultural or national identity. Oh, I see the difference here. One's a similarity and one's a difference. Okay. So make that really clear to yourself by marking, heavily underlining, right? One's a similarity, one is a difference. How the object you chose and the object shown convey aspects of cultural. Okay, so now we got VE, both works to support your explanation. We'll come back to evidence in just a second. All right, one similarity, and there's a difference, right? Make it real clear so you can see these. Explain one similarity and how the object you chose and the object shown express the values of the society in which each work was created. Okay, they're asking about the culture of origin, aren't they? Support your explanation with an example of relevant iconographic or use of symbolic would be fine, or contextual information from both your chosen work and the object shown. Can you guys tell that this is now more complex than that? All we had to do up here was describe a certain kind of way. Now we're really making almost like an argument, sort of, right? So, okay, we're just giving ourselves a heads up. No need to panic yet. Just keep on boxing your words and connectors, and we will come back. Okay. I see or I get to choose. All right, supportive. I use it or from voted and how. And okay, so basically you're having to do everything for both works, no matter what it is, right? So don't get too far away from that. We really need to know what's going on here. Okay. Okay. Wow. So let's keep on going. Visual characteristics, VE. VE. Okay, contextual is part of that. So we could use contextual if we wanted, or we could go with symbolism or iconographic information, right? That would be symbolic imagery, really. So we could say maybe symbolic subject matter. They're trying to tell you not the form of the thing, but the specifics about symbolism, the specifics about the history of the piece. They wanted to push you toward contextual, but there must be something down here that makes it iconographic. Okay, we'll talk more about that in a second. Okay, so let's start underlining key phrases. The object you chose, the object shown convey aspects of cultural or national identity. Okay, aspects of cultural or national identity. One's a similarity, one's a difference. The dogs are at the front door. Don't worry about it. We're good. You also have the object shown expresses the values of society. Let me just let the crazy run. All right. The object should express the values of the society in which the work was created. Okay. Values of the society in which the work was created. All right. So we should be okay moving ahead here. It's just a symbolism thing. Okay. I'm going to say symbolic subject matter, because that's what that is. Symbolic. Okay. If the sample is to be believed, if this is the way that we're thinking it's gonna go, then what you're seeing is that every one of these things is like a multiple step task, right? If I take this thing, it's kind of like I'm graphing it out this way. Explain one similarity. Well, you guys know what that is. That is this thing right here, right? Around an idea. Okay. With aspects of cultural identity, right? Cultural identity is at the middle of this. Okay, now we have to kind of describe from both works specific visual stuff about cultural identity. And we're going to try and describe at least three, magic of three. Okay. So the next thing is difference. Okay. Yeah. So cultural identity is still here, but you got to know this is a difference. I'm going to mark those so you can see more clearly. Different, same. Okay. These more generic prompts that get released, I get really worried that people are going to get overwhelmed by them because they look scary. But when you break it down like this, it's fairly simple. It's just you got to keep track. Did I do a similarity? Did I do the difference? Have I done my description full enough to count? Because we haven't even talked about where we think points are going to fall, right? And that may not be necessary, but we'll play with the idea. Cultural identity. Okay. Let it go. And now we move on to the next thing. Explain a similarity. Well, here we are again. Okay, similarity. And that's around an idea, right, about the culture. How does the object shown express the values of the society in which each culture was created? Values. Okay, support your explanation now. Okay, support's a little bit different. This is where we add the triangle back, right? We're going to support whatever we say here to answer the question with evidence from both works. Okay, now we have to do that again with a difference. So now I'm beginning to see the structure of my response, or what it needs to be. Okay, and we're going to support that as well. Okay, so good Lord. Okay, do they? Whoa, let's see. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. With 4 sections of this question, I kind of sort of think each one's going to be worth 2. This might be an 8-point situation. It might be they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know. Okay. But what I do know is that we have mapped out all of the things that we have to do. And regardless of where task point 1 or task point 3 or 4 falls, we now have a clear mind map of where we've got to write our essay. So cultural identity is the key. In the elk hide, I'm using visual evidence. My selected work, I'm using visual evidence. Again, with the visual evidence, it was once a similarity, now a difference. And now I'm talking more about an argument kind of thing. Explain that, support your explanation. How the object you chose expresses the values of the society in which the work was created. Okay, so you have to say something that's similar, whichever ones you choose. You have to show something that's different, whichever ones you choose. And it has to be from both works. So I'm going to put work number 1, work number 2, and it can be about what? It says symbolic subject matter. All right, so I'm going to put sim, SM. That's one option I've got, right? And then, or I could use good old CE, one or the others, okay? All right, so I've got some options there. You know, I think College Board is trying to open the door a little bit because we find ourselves in this situation with everything that's going on, and they're trying to give people more options, but in a way that can be more confusing, can it? You're not exactly sure what's going on when you see something that's this far reaching, but it still makes sense, right? Go with what works based on the artwork you choose, and everything will be fine. Work number 1, work number 2. We can still use symbolic subject matter, iconography, right? Or we could do contextual evidence. And that'll depend on which work we choose. All right. So I could go through and say T1 and evidence is T2 and go on down like this. Or I could say this is all 1 point. This is all 1 point. This is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I don't know. At this point, guys, I'm going to again encourage you to answer all parts of the question. All right. And then let the points fall where they may, because somebody above our pay grade is going to have to decide this one. Okay. Maybe they just want to see what kids can do with this. I don't know, but I kind of sort of think this is the way it's going to go. T1, T2, T3, T4. 4. Okay. Do you guys see every time we're talking about two things, right? That means if you know one but not the other, you're not going to get that point. So you have to say, while this one does cultural identity in a certain kind of way, the other work I've chosen does it completely differently. And here's why, right? Otherwise, you're going to leave out something and it's not going to get you your full points whenever they do show up. So let me finish this up. T5. Let's say evidence is T6 for both of these, right? T7, gracious. T8, okay. All right. So we've got pretty long list of to-dos here, but at least we have a plan. And until you break it apart and take a look at it, I'm not sure exactly what you say. Now, if you're getting back to like a content review of these two pieces, you guys know that piece pretty well. That is the elk hide Cody. I believe he's Shoshone, is that right? He's coming from Wyoming. He identifies with the Plains culture of Native North America. Right at the end of the 19th century, when this way of life is disappearing, we talked about subject matter with the war bonnet creature, the chief sitting there, right? The warriors are dancing akimbo here around a symbol for a dance that's being basically outlawed. This way of life is disappearing, but it's still something that's culturally relevant and celebrated, even though the form of it may have changed away from fire dance, sun dance, or whatever it was, eagle dance. You can see definitely the buffalo. Now, guys, subject matter, it wouldn't be good if you just said, I see buffalo, teepees, and a dude with feathers on his head. I don't think any reader is going to give you credit for that. You have to say why this is culturally synonymous or relevant with the Great Plains. Buffalo are a food source. The warriors and the culture follows the buffalo and the herd where it goes. Therefore, they must live in teepees. It must be movable. They've got to be kind of able to be somewhat nomadic, right? This is the end of a hunt. So this celebrates a good time in life where you have ample resources. That were hunted on horseback. Do you guys see that? For traveling great distances. I mean, this basically is a mini picture of what life on the plains was remembered to be, right? Of course, these end up being sold as tourist items later on, but some of the earliest ones were given as gifts and used as hangings inside the teepee. So you guys can see the elk hide. It's stretched. It's tanned and bleached in the sun. Long process before you can even go about putting the artwork here. And the pigments typically are locally sourced. Later on, they become acrylic. And we even see the use of stencils because the buffalo are all the same shape. They might be looking the same direction, but these are being at some point mass produced for purchase by tourists. Okay. So this is a picture of my culture, of what I remember of my culture. Diego Rivera will do the same kind of thing with his dream of a Sunday afternoon in Alameda Park. It's basically a historic timeline of everybody who's contributed something to Mexican history. But it's from a particular vantage point that seems and reads like a dream, almost like a surreal dream. Figures from the beginning of the conquistador era show up next to people from the end of the 19th century, show up to people in the 20th century who would be recognized as contemporaries walking around in Alameda Park, where this thing was actually put. There's a hotel on the side of Alameda Park, and this was a work that went into the lobby. You guys are going to be excited to find out there's a protest against this work. Initially, it has the phrase in it that God is dead, and people are so angry. Mexico and Mexico City is the seat of a strong Catholic federation. So they wanted the work removed, and there's more that I can tell you about that later. But imagery basically shows a variety of different people who are important to the history, including Sor Juana. Frida Kahlo shows up with Diego there looking like a kid, and there's lots of other figures that we can talk about. So I'll be digging into that work later. Jacob Lawrence, another work that you need to know for the image set, The Migration of the Negro. That's a series, and we've got panel number 4 in the image set. This is the work that was done to kind of demonstrate the plight of the African American during the era of Jim Crow laws, when more people are leaving the South and coming to the North, but still finding segregation and racism. The work that we have shows the division between two groups of people, one white on one side who have a set of tables that are well suited and prepared. The other African Americans who are dealing with meager portions and limited means, basically separated in the middle by a yellow cord or stanchion. So it's basically visually shown to show division. It's there to basically show a reality that's historical. All of these have something to say about history, whether it's imagined or whether it's what we perceive to be happening, right? So I think this was a really good question to get some review in, but it comes from the last half of the course, and we're going to finish that up so you're more comfortable with that. Now, I'd like to share with you guys a friend of mine who took this prompt and broke it down. And I'm happy the way that she broke it down. So I'm going to add a little bit more to this video that will help you with this prompt. Okay, so stay tuned. All right, so guys, this is a friend of mine, Aaron Nelson, who basically took the simple exam released question from College Board and put it here so her students could see it and analyze it together online. And I wanted to show you what they were doing that seemed very much like what we have been doing. She decided to take it on and compare the two artworks side by side. So here we have the elk hide. This is a really grainy image of the mural by Diego Rivera, and it's only half of it or part of it. So we need to take a look at that together. But the idea is, if I can just figure out, okay, where to go to the next page. There we go. All right. What you're seeing is that she decided too that it was like two task points, and I don't know if it's falling between two pieces of evidence or answering this, but what I'm seeing here is that there is something that she's using to explain the idea and then evidence that comes from both here. This is our pyramid idea, right? So I think that if this helps you, then I'd like to post this after everybody turns theirs in and tries this on their own, because I think you need to wrestle with it in order to understand that we're going to be fine. So the first little paragraph is this pyramid. We can go on to the next page and you'll see the same thing. Difference in how both works convey aspects of cultural or national identity, describes specific characteristics of both works to support your explanation. She addresses the difference and then adds evidence from both. And I think no matter how the points are going to fall, as long as you're using our pyramid idea, you're going to be fine. You're going to have all the parts of the question there, and they're not going to be able to take any points away from you. So just stick to what we've been doing, and I think you'll be okay. Let's look down here. Similarity again, both works. You really have to use those connector words and transitional phrases so we know that you're talking about a similarity or a difference, and then providing your evidence. Those are separate tasks. So please just make sure that you're looking at this and kind of thinking it through so that you're sure not to miss a task. Okay, task point 8. See, she decided this was 1 point, and I'm kind of thinking it's more. Oh, there it is. Task 8, 9, and 10. There's our bottom of the essay pyramid. Okay. So kind of interesting. That's an interesting kind of tack, and I hope that it's helpful for you. Basically going to do that as well with the image that you're seeing from Jacob Lawrence, and you can see she did the same thing, right? Task points 1 and 2. Where you talk about the similarity and figure out what's going on and then add your evidence. She saw that as 2 points. All right. Okay, we'll go with that. Second task was this similarity provided by that evidence. So it's kind of the same thing we've been doing. Task point 5, express the similarity. Task point 6 and 7, evidence. You could draw a triangle on all of these pages and you would be good to go, right? So you can stop the video and read this if you want to. I'm going to go on through for purposes of continuity and change. I will address what she did with this in just a second as we get through the debrief. Okay, thanks a lot. Stay tuned.